So what's up and welcome back to the YouTube channel. I'm back by popular demand. So right, if you're here for the first time, hit the subscribe button. Don't do it yet. Wait till you've watched the video, and if you enjoy the video, then you subscribe, all right? So I've had a lot of people asking, oh, how does cash buyers work and so on and so forth. And I thought, what better way to address it? Well, skirt around the issue, but I will do a slightly different video instead, and I'll probably do a cash buy video completely separately. Today we're gonna talk about cash buy versus mortgages, because I also get those questions a lot. Oh, I've got 180 grand, bro. What do you think I should do with it? Oh, I've got 80 grand, I've got 100 grand, I've got 250 grand, I've got $500,000. What should I do with it? Right? I'm answering all your questions on this video. Let's go. So let's run through it, right? Firstly, let's talk about the advantages and disadvantages of cash buys. Big advantage of cash buys is super cheap, right? In the sense that you save on your closing fees. So let's say, for example, if you were doing a mortgage, even when your conveyancing solicitor charges you, they charge you a slightly higher fee just to, you know, set up the mortgage and so on and so forth, the paperwork and whatnot. So you save a couple £100 on those. Probably, I think it's around, depending, around £300 or so. But more importantly, you save all the interest that you actually would have paid if you went out and got a mortgage. I'll give you an example. If you bought a £100,000 house, cash, that's it, done. Your expense is done. Whereas now, if you bought that same house on a mortgage, at the end of that 25-year term, you probably would have paid, I don't know, 40 grand, 60 grand in literally interest. That's money that you would have saved if you actually got it cash. But how many people have the cash to actually buy the house in the first place? So I'll leave you with that question while we go into point number 2. It's the magical way to actually buy a property if you want to close on a deal real quickly, if you want to be put ahead of the queue with regards to other people that may have made offers. Cash buy, vendors love it, literally. Sellers love it. You know, if you're selling your property and someone says cash buy, you know, the alarm bells just ring, but in a good way, because you're thinking, hold on, that means they can close so quickly, they don't have to wait for a mortgage, and the mortgage potentially wouldn't get declined, because that's also something else, isn't it? You know, you could go for a mortgage, you could have your offer in principle, mortgage in principle, and so on and so forth, and then go all the way to the end, then apply, only for you to get rejected. And in that case, the vendor would have lost out, because maybe they've lost out on other suitable buyers by accepting your offer. But now that you've been rejected for the mortgage, they can't sell the property no more. They have to then start the process all over again. But if you are a cash buyer, then that wouldn't be a problem. So it's way more attractive, and you're probably, you know, going to get the attention from the vendor. So that's one of the reasons why cash buys are a fantastic way to, you know, purchase property. Which then leads me on to point number 3. Excluding, like, for the ease of explaining this to you guys, right, let's leave out taxes and so on and so forth. Leaving those out, cash buy is extremely profitable as well, right? But there's a but to it, which I'll talk about later on in the video. But it's extremely profitable in the sense that 100% of the earnings come back to you. You know, if I bought the house for cash now and I'm earning, I don't know, £1,000 in rent, I don't need to go and pay £300 in mortgage to the bank or the lender. You know, other than, let's say, the management fee that I pay the estate agent, all the other money comes back to me. So that's a great incentive for people. But you're thinking, is it all good with cash buys? Of course it's not. There are massive disadvantages of cash buys, which I'll go into. Cash buys are a heavy financial commitment. You think about it, you know, having to lay down £40,000 for a house outright, £100,000 for a house outright. It's not necessarily, it doesn't epitomize the saying of working smart, does it? It's more working hard. Whereas now, you know, if you flip that and we talked about mortgages instead, then you'd realize that there's a massive scope, and you'd realize that maybe cash buys are not that cheap after all. Maybe mortgages are in fact cheaper than cash buys. Let's get to the mortgages. So earlier when I talked about cash buys being potentially cheaper than mortgages, but is that really true? Let's explore that a little further. I'm going to put a diagram on the screen right now to help you keep up with the explanation I'm about to give you. So assuming we bought the house for 100% cash, and the house cost us 200,000, that means, let's say our rental income is around £861. We have 0 monthly mortgage payments. That means our net rental income would still be £861. That's taking away, management costs and so on and so forth. Ignore that for a minute. Whereas now, if we went and bought 2 properties and we were able to put down 50% deposits each, so let's say we bought 2 £200,000 properties and we put down half of those each, that being 100,000 each per property, right? That means our monthly rental income doubles to £1,722. But our net income would be around £888 once we deduct the mortgage cost of £833. So as you could see, even though we've actually gone and got a mortgage, we've got 2 houses and we're still earning slightly more than actually putting all that money in as a cash buy. We're still working with the same 100,000. Let's take it a step further and let's look at the third column, right? Let's say now we bought 4 properties and we put down 25% each. So out of that 200 grand, 25% each being £50,000 into 4 times. So buying 4 £200,000 houses with 25% deposit. Again, our income would come in at around £3,444. Our mortgage payments would be around £2,500. But again, our total income in terms of our net profit will be £944. So again, we are potentially earning more using that same £100,000, if that makes any sense. We're still earning more money, but more importantly, we're also having someone else pay off all our debts. We have all these tenants in these properties paying off the debts, and we're using that same 100,000 to actually grow our net worth and earn a lot more money. So that's point number 1 with regards to the advantages of doing a mortgage. Now point number 2, it's a massive one, isn't it? Capital growth using the bank's money. And what do I mean by that? Say for example we bought, again another illustration, right? Say for example we bought 1 house, £100,000, versus let's say we bought 4 houses and we put down 25% deposits in them, and those 4 houses are worth £100,000 each, and we put down 25, 25, 25, 25. So still 100,000 that we've spent cash, but rather than buying outright, we've done 4 mortgages instead, right? Let's say this cash buy goes up by 10%. That means we've made a capital growth of £10,000. And now let's say this goes up by 10%. That means we've made a capital growth of £40,000, if that makes any sense, because remember, we've got 4 properties. So that's the advantage of using a mortgage. You're using the bank's money to, essentially speaking, grow your net worth, stretch your wealth, and all in all, make a lot more money. Point number 3, sometimes, especially times like now that interest rates are extremely low, there's absolutely no excuse to not use the facilities of a mortgage. When you consider how cheap it is, when you factor in, some of the write-offs that you could actually do when calculating your taxes at the end of the year, it's literally almost like obtaining free money. So why wouldn't you use that 100,000 to obtain 400,000 worth of free money from the bank, if that makes any sense? So that's another advantage. During times of low interest, it's a no-brainer to not go out and get a mortgage. So that's point number 3 in terms of the advantages of using a mortgage. If you're enjoying this video, make sure you subscribe. If it's too intense in terms of my explanation, then let me know. I'll probably rewatch the video again so that you can catch some of the things I'm explaining. And now on to point number 4. It's a massive low barrier to entry, isn't it? Let's think about it. Not everyone has 100,000 chilling in their bank account, or 250,000 spare that they could just invest into property. When on the other hand now, if we're talking mortgages, right, you only really need to come up with 25% of the value of the property, and the bank would be able to loan the rest to you, obviously depending on your individual circumstances. But that's a rule of thumb. Whereas now, if we all had to come up with the whole value of the property, then I'm sure a lot less people will be property owners. So that's the other advantage of using mortgages. And that's how you could obviously beat the system. That's how you could get ahead early, you know, rather than having to wait till maybe your 50s to buy a house or to start investing. You can start investing in your 20s because maybe you have access to 20 grand, but you don't have access to 80 grand cash. You know, maybe you have access to 100,000 cash, but you don't have access to 400,000 cash. So you use that 100 grand and go get 400,000 pounds worth of, you know, property. That's the advantage. So leading on from there, I'll chuck in a bonus point for you guys. Obviously, once you start doing mortgages and so on and so forth, it builds your file with the lenders. It builds your credit profile and so on and so forth, and it puts you in really good standing for the future if you need additional borrowing. And an example of that could be, you know, you could get loans against the houses and so on and so forth, and that could fix a lot more issues for you elsewhere. It could be in the form of an emergency fund. It could be in the form of refinancing. You know, you have all these properties now that you've bought on mortgages, you've increased the value in them, you've refinanced, you pulled out your money, and you've gone and done it somewhere else. So, in fact, you are getting richer quicker than someone who's actually just doing cash buys. And I think I could probably put that out there as a fact. But the big disadvantage of mortgages is still the fact, like I said earlier on, you have all that interest, quote unquote, going to waste. That's number one. Number two, you know, it's a big debt hanging over your head, isn't it? Whereas with the cash buy, you don't owe no one. Now with the mortgages, you miss your payments. Potentially, your house could be repossessed. So for me, these are the main advantages and disadvantages of using cash buys to purchase property versus using a mortgage to purchase property. But with that being said, I think I'd probably sway more towards the mortgages because I'm all about building wealth and I'm all about working smart and not really, you know, just working hard. I mix working smart and working hard. Hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, give it a big thumbs up and leave your comments below. Let me know what you think. Give me suggestions for future videos and I'll try and incorporate that in my filming schedule as well. And you have a great weekend. See you next time at 6 p.m.